That was nice. That
Do you need, you okay, bud?
Okay. I'm gonna turn on my camera too for a minute. Come on, just so they can see me for a moment. Unless, do you want it on you as well? When you're standing here. Welcome to our spring data conference. We do have a fairly full room down here in Nebo, and welcome everyone who is online. Again, thank you for being here. Appreciate the day you'll be spending with us. There are 3 sessions, a morning session with the USIMS team from USBE, the middle session, or what would you call that one, Calista? Just session 2. Session 2 will be some additional updates, reviews, discussions, and then some training in the last session round. So again, thank you for being here. If you have a question online, so we have, I believe, 2 individuals, maybe, well, we have the individuals here tracking that. So if you want to speak and ask a question, you raise your hand, they'll notify us, and then we'll go through that process. We might have to read it out loud to the room, just letting you know in the process to do that. But please feel free, again, if you're online, we'll communicate with that way. There are a few individuals who'll be doing presentations in session 2 and 3 who are not here. We'll be just putting the mic close to the computer, so you can see that as well. For those who are here in the building in Nebo, restrooms are that way, around the corner. For those who are in your office, restrooms are where they usually are. We'll just say that. Again, thank you for being here. I will turn the time now over to Katrina from the USIMS team, and I'll get the slides up and running, and I'm going to turn off the camera off me because you don't want to be there. And what just happened? Okay, mouse slipped. Okay, let's go back to presentation. Here's this, and now you're admitting people, right? Okay, and someone said turn off notifications. Oh, come on, display. Well, it's the Zoom. Okay, you're up, and then
Yeah,
whatever you want to
just
use.
forward. Just gonna
Yeah.
X that out.
Okay.
If I can find a mouse. Okay, can everyone hear me okay, first off? Yeah? All right. Perfect. Aaron, did you wanna
Just go on.
remember to mute your microphone and raise your hand if you have a question? All right. So my name is Katrina Brinkley. I'm the Chief Product Owner and Program Manager, excuse me, for USIMS, which is the Utah Schools Information Management System. We have a quick presentation that I'm going to give you today, just covering kind of what we're doing with USIMS, what's going on, what's coming up. And with that, I'll get started. So I'm going to minimize this. Erin, are you okay with
That's fine, except for when it's Bill presenting.
Dawn will be presenting,
Yeah.
yeah, so I can pop that up when, yeah, okay. Perfect. All right, so USIMS is divided into 3 domains. We have the educator, the finance, and the student domain. Each of these domains has very unique aspects to them. Obviously, our educators need to be treated a little bit differently than our students, as far as data goes, as far as experience. And our finance obviously has a lot more data intensive and API focused data. So we'll go over kind of what each of those domains are. This just gives you a quick overhead of what they're doing. I thought it was going to be on. All right, our roadmap. So I am going to talk about our educator team today. I have our product owner here, Mark Wattups from the student team, who will talk in just a minute. And then we have Don Moody online, who's going to talk over the finance stuff. So the educator team right now, oh, sorry, I hit the mic. I'm so sorry. Our educator team is working on Bureau of Criminal Investigation API, working with educator background checks and trying to get those automated within USIMS. What that means is that when your educators get their licensure or need to renew their license or need to get anything like that, the entire system will be in one system rather than in 4 systems with Cactus and Utah Interactive and all of the other pieces and bits that are going on right now. So we've already worked on some of the licensure renewal. We're also getting finished on the educator preparation program or university recommends. So the educators who are recommended from the university actually go straight into USIMS and never have to have an outside experience. And that is working on being a release. Actually, we have BCI being released today, and we have the educator prep program being beta tested right now with our teaching and learning partners. That's the word I was looking for. Before I go on, are there any questions on what the educator group is trying to accomplish? Did I see a hand up? No? Okay. Perfect. All right. And this slide just kind of gives everybody an overview of what's coming up. After they finish the BCI and the university recommends, they're going to be moving into our UPAC processes, which are our I forget what UPAC stands for, Utah Professional Practices Advisory Commission. Thank you for putting it in there. And that'll be just a lot of manual processes that we're transforming into automated processes. Right now it's spreadsheets, and it'll be in a system here soon. So, any questions? Cool. In that case, I'm going to turn the time over to Mark Wattups, who is our product owner for the student domain, and let him talk about our student backpack. I mean,
Can I
There is a question.
oh, there is. Yes.
Well, let's go away.
Yes, Cactus will go away. We are next year, as of 2025, our #1 priority is to subsume Cactus and get rid of it.
But you have a year to work.
We have a year to work.
It's not 2025, January 2nd.
No, yeah, we're not just turning it off July 2nd. No, we will do it slowly and a bit at a time.
Okay, thanks, Katrina. I think most of you have an idea of what the student backpack is, but I'm going to cover that real briefly just in case. So legislation was passed 511, if I get this right, 53E-3-511. For those of you that want to look that up. But essentially the purpose of the backpack is to, when a student, let's say Johnny or Sarah, moves from LEA 1 to LEA 2, that those that key information about that student moves with the student, so that they, one, have the ability to move and their information goes with them, and 2, that they have this ongoing record, no matter where they're located in the state, of their grades and the information, quite honestly, that you see up above here. And so that's been our focus this year, is to build the foundation for that information in USIMS and to build the capability to be able to move that information from one LEA to the next. Now, it's taken us some time because we're trying to do this in a new way. We have a lot of disparate systems, as you know, at the state, and we're really trying to build this from the ground up with, for those of you that are technical, with a microservices type approach to this, where we're focusing on specific needs within the specific needs for different departments, as well as getting feedback from the LEAs. What you're seeing here is essentially what we had scoped out for this year. Progress wise, you see we've been able to capture a lot of the student backpack data that we need. We're still working on assessment growth scores as we speak. And as we're doing this, as I mentioned before, it's not just about capturing that data, it's also about being able to share that data across different LEAs. One thing that I will point out here under number 1, identify student record data across multiple LEAs. One thing that we've tried to address is, for those of you, this is probably one of the major pain points, if not the major pain point that we hear about, is that what happens when Johnny moves to the new LEA and a new SSID is created, a new account, but they already have something existing in the system. So you start getting duplicate records. We're not going to be able to solve that overnight, obviously, but we have taken some measures to try and make sure that when Johnny moves from LEA 1 to LEA 2, when they enroll, then that becomes kind of a trigger, if you will, to go get that information, that student backpack information. But we've created a solution that allows us to tell if one record over here belongs to this student and a record over here belongs to the student. So it's really a initial step in helping us be able to solve that issue, that you can have multiple records at different LEAs, but they should all be able to track back to the same student. And permissions being another piece of that, where you'll have access to, the LEA will have access to those records as Johnny enrolls within your LEA. So that's one thing that I want to highlight for those of you that are interested. We continue to work on student data movement between LEAs. That's where we're at right now. We're a little bit behind for a couple of different reasons on that, but this is where the majority of our work right now is in this movement from one LEA to another. So the first leg is we're working on just getting the capability in place to share the information from state or USIMS to an SIS. And as all of you know, there's various SIS systems in the state. We're not going to be able to have live data being transacted, but the goal was to have the capability in place, or the foundation, so that we could start, if you will, building the floors of the house off of that foundation. I think I covered most of this. This is what we're working on right now that I just explained. Here's kind of our progress at where we're at. We've had some team changes and some things like that that have kind of impacted our timelines, but we're pushing hard to get the first interoperability standard called EdFi in place for us to be able to exchange that information. So we're working with SIS vendors like Skyward and PowerSchool as we have that documentation ready, and we're both working towards that standard. Meaning that Skyward and PowerSchool, for instance, are certified with EdFi today. And so we're using that as kind of our initial testing, and then we'll continue to expand to the other SISs. Yes, sir.
So all the time that talk about use, I still am not quite sure about this. Currently, we do state reporting through UTrends, right? We LEA send data to the state through Utrecht.
Yep.
That gets used for all sorts of funding reports and, you know, I don't know what else. What part of this replaces that, or have we not got to that part yet, and this is all something else other than the Utrecht's functionality? Or, because you talk a lot about backtrack this data moving kind of between LEAs or from the state to the LEA, but I haven't seen anything about from the LEAs to the state.
Yes, excellent
So-
question.
So.
No, you're not missing it.
Okay, you have to repeat that question.
Okay, okay. Let's see if I can sum it up and you check me to make sure I didn't get it wrong. I think the question was, thank you, Aaron. I think the question was, one, how does this functionality that we're building in USIMS potentially replace what we're doing with Utrecht? And the second piece is, I've heard you talk about state to LEA, but what about LEA to state in that piece of it, correct?
Yeah, it kind of. It's the. I haven't seen any that would replace Utrecht. before.
Right.
Either I missed it or it got that LEA to the state.
Yep. Okay, yeah, so he's just clarifying right now, saying I haven't seen anything that's talking specifically about that transaction from LEA to state. So the answer to your question is, we started because you're submitting, the LEAs are submitting through the SIF zone today, and they're using that method to do that. We don't want to go in and wholesale replace all of that functionality. So we've literally said, I guess the way to answer your question is, one, we've tried to take this in pieces so that we can test our functionality out and then kind of move towards exactly what you're talking about, which is eventually this will replace, like the EdFi will be one standard we'll use to eventually replace what we do in the SIF zones today. But we couldn't do that all at once. And so the student backpack, the second answer to your question or second piece to that is, the student backpack is it's a smaller subset of that data that you send to the state. One use case is that, you know, like we talked about, Johnny moving from one LEA to the next, and that's the primary purpose for the backpack, is that permanent record. The other is reporting, which is huge. And the majority of what you submit from the LEA to the state is exactly that. It's data that we need for reporting purposes or for finance or whatever. And we've tried to treat those as separate rather than say, hey, there's all these needs, let's all send this data. We've tried to build this with that in mind, that there are different use cases and needs within the departments. So like Aaron and I are always talking about this, and he's chomping at the bit going, okay, well, when are we going to get like reporting data, and when are we going to fix this? And so that's kind of the long answer to your question. The short answer is, it's coming. We just have to do this in phases, and we want to make sure that as we build this, that we're testing those data sets as we go, so that we're not trying to just cut things off, if that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, that's probably another way to sum it
Okay,
up.
so you gotta repeat, because I can't hear, so.
Yeah, so Katrina just said, the short answer is that we're building the APIs right now that will allow that capability to happen, and we'll expand off of what we're building this year.
So where on these slides is that represented? That's where either I'm misunderstanding the slides or it's not on the slides yet, which tells me it's not actually, it's like, it's being thought about, but no work's actually happening yet. You're focusing on the backpack piece, which is not Utrecht's replacement piece, which is.
Correct.
So I guess I'm just, I mean, a year, 2 years, 10 years before Utrecht actually goes away and we're doing USIMS and EdFi for our, you know, membership reporting or.
Yeah. Okay.
And again, you gotta repeat
Yep.
the question. Comments.
Utrecht's going away. Listen for that. So the question if I sum this up, I think the question was, I'm not seeing anything on these slides that talks about when Utrecht goes away or when this becomes a replacement for all of that functionality. The student backpack is just a subset. That's been the scope for this year. But it is, I did want to point out that it's a stepping stone towards us getting there. As for whether it's 5, 10 years, I can't answer that. All I can tell you is that we'll keep you up to date on a monthly basis through our PMRs or through our student focused working group, how we're progressing towards that. But this, I want to be clear that this does move us in that direction and helps us from that standpoint.
If I may.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna stand by it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, to repeat this, so they can hear, I'll have to repeat this again, and then I'll see if I answer the question. So go for it. If this thing goes up, sorry,
Yeah, you're
for
good.
those who can't say, just rip the
You're
mic off his neck. So, fantastic questions and concerns, by the
Yeah.
way, well, all of us in the room and online, probably exact same questions, like, okay, this is coming, we recognize this. But what about all this other stuff we have to do right now? And Cliff is actually in the room for those who haven't seen him in person. We know, so when we say we know, this is not the replacement. This, like he was saying, it is a foundation stop. And sometimes I am chomping at the bits and they're
That's
like,
good.
whoa, hold off, we're not doing this yet. And I'm like, gotcha. We will continue on down the Utrex submission process. So legally, they have to be in compliance with the backpack by July. That's what they're doing. Just letting the group know. They have to be in compliance with that because that's the law. Once that is done, then working with the new team and working with Cliff, then we will start doing, and again, Katrina's going to tell me you're wrong or whatever. That's when we'll start doing the roadmaps of the transitions. Okay, this component fits here, it's working. The Ed5 components are working great. Now we're going to expand the Ed5. Maybe we'll start road mapping that out both with all of you and the SISs, obviously, and between what Cliff's team is doing, what my team does, and what the USIMS team does. So there will be that collaboration coming. It's not happening January, February, March, April, May, June, 2026. I don't know when it's like, when is this going to happen?
30.
We don't know. I've asked, we've had lots of discussions saying, hey, we need this data for, multiple other reporting requirements that come from legislation, for example. I've asked Mark, hey, do you think USIMS is going to be able to get this next year? And the answer is, you better not plan on us being the first year out for this. So it's like, okay, then we go, it's like, hey, Cliff, this is our plan A, he's plan B, and then eventually that's going to transition, and then USIMS becomes plan A, Utrex starts going away. We are not to that point, so.
Right.
Okay, we have a couple questions, but I got one in the room first because I could see him. I apologize. And then we'll go to questions. Paul?
Right. Okay. Yes, excellent. Yeah, so the question was, if the data happens to be inconsistent or there's a problem with the data, is there a way to fix that? Really, it's the API that we've been focusing on. So that piece of it, in the ability to be able to send that is just we're really that pass through from one LEA to the next. Now, I will say that for consideration on the roadmap, we had the ability for LEA administrators, or I should say SIS administrators within the LEAs that are supporting that, for them to be able to have some type of view into that data. But that's been descoped, and with the thought that we need to put some real thought into how do we audit that information or be able to say, is what the SIS has, what are we seeing at the state? An example would be like, we did an on-site visit with Salt Lake High School, and they had, within Power School, they were showing that their graduation rates were at a certain percentage, but yet when at the state, it's something else. Well, so where's the change there? And we need a way to be able to allow us both on both ends to be able to see or at least audit that information. So the short answer is it's an API at this point. We're trying to build in the functionality that will help us allow us to see some of those errors and maybe learn from what Utrex has done, and build, from those lessons learned and build a better system that way. Yep.
Wait, Cliff. We'll let you answer that after the questions. How about that?
Oh, okay.
But you have to
Yep.
go up here and speak in the mic when you're ready, so
Yep.
let's go question number one.
Okay, the first question, is it true? that
Wait.
Is it true that USBE will be forcing LEAs to statewide SIS system?
That's above my pay grade, I'm afraid.
Jerry, Belton Director, Mickey. It's coming up there to make fun of us.
He's like, dang it.
Yeah, so the board is currently gonna visit that recommendation. Main board meeting, so if they approve it, it will go to the legislature for their approval and fund. So there is a possibility that's happening.
Okay. Okay, hang on. What's next? And then Katrina, you gotta come up here. Any other questions? Okay, so Cliff, sorry. USP staff, if you're asking questions or answering questions, you gotta come up here. Yes, please.
Audio's kind of choppy, speaking in the microphone.
Up closer to my computer and speak.
So to address some of the questions about Utrex, when it could be replaced and the actual data being able to be updated onto the API to replace the data that's collected. I just want to address both of those. And that's first, as Mark suggested, the EdFi is about interoperability and following models that other states have done whenever you've implemented a new system into place. It's not a hard cut and switch over. It's a progressive thing, an agile concept that we would be bringing SISs over. We'd be implementing schools, districts, systems over into being able to take care of EdFi or to be able to fall back onto the existing system for SIF up until there's a cutoff point, which the state would make a clear demarcation that says that everybody has to be matched up to this new system at a certain age. Katrina would be the best to speak to that when we get to that point, but there's still a lot of development before that. As far as with sending updates that change that data to the backpack is more of a report source rather than a input system. The collection system that still needs to be developed out with EdFi, that EdFi API, that would really be where you'd be able to send those updates to, as it's important that the source data changes at the LEA and not, from the state. When the state tries to change the LEA's data, then we get out of sync. That's why we always recommend that the LEA changes their own data. We receive the data, we represent the data, and whenever you need to see a state level set of data change, it's typically the best procedure to look for how that can be pushed through from the LEA to us.
Yeah, if I can end up with it. Yeah, and we're really looking at EdFi as just that conduit from being able to transfer the information from the LEA to the state and from the state to the LEA. So I just wanted to be clear on that because other states have used their data structure and some other things, and we're purposely not doing that so that we have flexibility and we can adapt to needs of the business. But go ahead.
Thank you. All right. How the push for one state SIS affects USIMS. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter to us whether there's one SIS or 15, because we are setting up one endpoint for every SIS to connect to. So that means that if it is one SIS, it's going to go to the same place as if it was 14 or 15 SISs. We are working on EdFi to begin with. We have plans for moving to other data standards should the SISs require or need them down the line. However, if we have one SAS, maybe we won't do more data standards because that SAS should be FI compliant when it comes on board as the state SAS. We don't know. We're kind of playing it by ear as some of this changes and some of the board addresses what this one SAS would look like and what they're going to push towards the legislature. We'll kind of see how it goes, but ideally it won't affect our program or our long-term plans for how we interact with those SASs. I see Aaron coming. Did you have?
Yeah.
Okay. Who wants it?
I'll take this.
Tanner, I have some pros and comments, but
So this is a follow-up on the single SIS. For your information, board meeting is next Thursday. Jared is frantically trying to find out the time, but it is the finance committee report to the board meeting that I would recommend that you log on and pay attention, see what the discussion goes on the SIS. It's the reporting on Thursday where they report out, where they, last month I went to the finance committee. It passed 3-1, I think was the vote on it. It goes to the full board, just so you understand the process. The full board then will look at the recommendation and then they'll vote. And it will be telling. Is it going to be a long discussion? Is it going to be a quick vote? I don't know. I don't predict what the board does. Ever. I'm always wrong. So just letting you know that's next Thursday. That's May 1st, right? May 2nd. Thank you. May 2nd. Jared, I don't know if you got the answer yet. Okay. The schedule has not been published. We were trying to go behind the scenes to see if we can find it. But again, it's when the finance committee reports out. They're usually the first because there's 3 committees at primary. It's the finance, the standards, and standards and something, assessment and whatever it's called. Forgot. And then you have the law and licensing one. So it's the finance one that you want to listen to. I just find out when that is and just listen to it. So there's 2 follow-up questions. I'll go here first. So the question is, if we went to one SIS, what's the timescale to transition? I don't know. That's a board discussion. We'll listen to what they have to say and recommendations back and forth. It's been presented to superintendents. It's been presented to USBE, which is the finance group. It's been presented to the charter school directors. I don't know who else. I know the conversations have happened. So this should not be a surprise that the discussion is happening. So that's question number 1. And then go ahead.
So are there any details on what presentation? I mean, it's like I'm thinking one SIS, does that mean there's a single database sitting at USBE that we all connect, our data is next to each other, or we still have our individual systems, it's just we have to use the same software the other one is using, or have they even announced that kind of thing?
Okay, someone right. Okay, so questions are, what does that mean? You're asking for detail, which I'll tell you right now is, I don't know. So those type of details, it looks like Jared has all the answers. Okay, but just letting you know, the concept of a single SIS for the state was presented, the pros and cons of what that means. There was an audit recommendation that started this process where the audit department came back to the state board and said, we recommend that you take these series of steps. And one of those steps was a single SIS should be looked at and discussed as a state option.
Just real quick, the plan would be to go out for an RFP. So it would be like a Power School or a Skyward or one of those. A lot of states are moving to that direction. So it would not sit at USBE. It would be hosted, probably at Power School I don't know the vendors. I mean, it would be who responds and who was decided on. And then the other point would be, it's after 10 o'clock or 12 o'clock board meeting. So it's item number 10. So does that answer your question? I mean, the plan could change, but it would go out for an RFP and then there would be a committee and go through that whole process.
I get that. I guess what I'm wondering is, so let's say we pick Skype, right? Because I like Skype, that's.
You gotta repeat what he's saying.
So does that mean that I have my Skyward and Alpine has their Skyward and Salt Lake has their Skyward, or does it mean there's a single Skyward and we all log into the same Skyward? And my students are sitting right next to Alpine students in the database.
So,
Those are two very different things.
got it. So question is, hey, let's say because Jordan likes Skyward and Jordan wins and we're all going Skyward, yay. The question is then does all of our students sit within a single location where Jordan, Granites and Canyons students are all in a single database and it's like, you know, one, if you will, behemoth, or is everyone has their own instance of it? I don't know the answer. My guess is everyone would have their own instance. Again, it would go out to an RFP process. And by the way, you would be included in this conversation. We wouldn't just go out and, I'm gonna say this, we wouldn't just go out and say, let's just make a choice for all the LEAs and see if we not tick off everyone, right? This would be a bigger conversation, say, let's have a deeper discussion. Let's, you know, you'd definitely be looking at what kind of governance structure do you put in place and how does that work? You'd be looking at, okay, look at the vendors and the needs and the specifications that is going to fit everyone. Sharing conversations that I had with other states who have gone to single SIS. They definitely have those discussions. There are some cost savings that primarily are driving this. There's also some data quality behind it, but we also know that the pains of switching an SIS are huge. So does the board know that
They will.
Yes. Does the board know that there's some pains? He's saying, please predict what the board members are thinking. The answer is, I have no idea. I mean, anyway.
The likely scenario is the board would approve it and then we would work out the details. We would let them know, you know, we'd set the timelines. They would understand the complexities of it. A lot of them are educators and they've been through a transition, like Weber went to power school just barely. And so they understand the pain points there. So we'll make sure, and like Aaron said, you'll all be involved in this and it won't be it's not gonna be a quick changeover, so.
Thank you for taking us way off track.
Yes. Okay.
Wait, more questions. Okay.
It's presented to those groups, but what was their position? And then the follow-up is USBE in favor of a statewide SIS?
Question number one, what was the reaction from the other groups when they heard this presentation? I've only heard what I heard from my boss, Deputy Superintendent Scott Jones, which was superintendent said, actually, most were open to the idea, but there was a number of pushbacks or concerns. I have no idea what the charter school board or I think USBE, that's the finance one. I think they were pretty open to it. I think. I don't know what the charter schools said. I'm looking, who's charter in the room? I don't know. So answer is, I wasn't at the meetings. I don't know exactly. I just hear back what we get from Scott. And the second question is USBE in support of this? That's an interesting question. USBE is in support of whatever the board decides. So if the board says no, we're not in support. If the board says yes, then we're in support. If you're saying, I want to ask Aaron what your position is, I'm not going to tell you because I don't have it yet because the board hasn't told me what my position is. There's the answer for that one. Okay. I've been married for a while. I'm happily married too, right? I know where my opinion comes from. Okay. Any other questions? Follow. Okay.
Sorry, any other questions there? Okay. Yeah, I just want to circle back here at the end to kind of tie in what we're talking about right now with this. Nothing really that we are doing right now is going to be impacted by any of those decisions. I truly get the LEA's position on this. That's obvious. But I think if I can say it this way, this is my personal belief. I think we've in the past have taken more a boil the ocean type of approach to USIMS. And this year we've been able to focus in specifically on the backpack. And it's not just the backpack data itself. It's really building the pipelines in place or the foundation, like I was mentioning in my analogy, so that now we can start building or down the road, start adding some of the reporting data and the rest of that and have the capability to do that. Any other questions? I think we had a ton, but reach out to me if you have any questions. A quick plug, the Student Focus Working Group, we have every other Monday at 3 o'clock. Please come. Some of you in this room come and you're and are actively participating. It makes a huge difference, because what we see at the state or in conversations that I have doesn't always represent what you're experiencing within your specific LEA. So shout out to those, like not to pick on anybody, but you know, Nebo's usually represented there, and Jordan School District as well. So please come, give your input. It's how we're going to be able to build this functionality in a way that can serve you as well as the data exchange needs. Thanks.
I'm just gonna put Don. Don cannot unmute himself. I don't know how he can. Don, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. But
Can you all hear me now?
yeah, can the room hear? Okay. Online, can you hear it? Online should hear him fine. Okay. All right, Don, you're up.
All right.
Will answer your slides.
Thank you, Aaron. So just wanted to quickly discuss with y'all kind of what's been going on in the finance domain. In particular, you know, Mark was talking a little bit about the API being able to kind of automate submissions on the student sides, and what we've done on the finance side, we have a much kind of like a smaller lift on our end as far as like the financial information that we are that we're moving back and forth. We've actually released the USIMS Finance API to third-party vendors, and just last week we were able to confirm that one of the vendors can send information to USIMS. We're still working through the format, some of the formatting issues with that submission, but we have confirmed that yes, vendors can submit data to USIMS. So that was a positive kind of confirmation for what we're doing on the finance domain. We also know that, so that was just kind of one of the vendors, and I know that a couple of other we're reaching out to 7 vendors in total. And so I know a couple other vendors are progressing along, and I'm actually following up on some Skyward questions around the formatting for the finance API. So that's that's kind of one of our recent wins. The other recent win that we have is just making sure that we've talked through in our focus working group, which we have every other Wednesday at 1 o'clock. We've been able to demo different functionality with being able to search for specific account codes and to search for specific revenue expenditure or balance sheet rules, which each LEA needs to use to submit their budget and actual information to USBE. This will kind of facilitate the process by which an LEA kind of associates. We call, a lot of LEAs have a slightly different chart of accounts than the USB standard. So this allows them to kind of more easily search and map their submissions to the unified USB standards that all LEAs need to submit. So those are a couple of our recent wins at this point. As far as kind of what the team is working on right now, the big thing that we're working on right now is just kind of, as we're getting feedback from the different third-party vendors, is kind of acting on that and making sure that we're facilitating their work as much as possible. Like I said, we have multiple vendors that are actively, in the process of connecting to USIMS to submit the budget and actual information from the LEAs. We're also working on feedback from the focus working group, and in particular from USB Finance around some different tweaks that we're doing with our searches. In particular, one item of feedback with that the finance users have let us know is that, hey, we understand like the need to be mobile friendly, but finance users, we need wide screens. A lot of folks in particular, I mean, they have wider than normal desktop screens, and they're not using mobile phones when they're analyzing or financial information. So we're implementing some tweaks to make sure that, hey, we're utilizing a wider screen for the rule searches, which oftentimes there's 3 components to a rule, and an LEA user needs to be able to see, okay, what account code is this? What is the name of this account code, to better filter and search through those things. So those are a couple of things that we're working on, and then what we're working on here at the finishing out this fiscal year through June 30th is the indirect cost. That's an important and a very complex set of calculations that the team is working to improve on within USIMS. We've outlined, we've outlined 20 different, I think 21 different user stories to implement that functionality for, and this is different than what is being done in the legacy system. I like the account codes to designate, okay, there's 4 different categories of expenditures and how those are calculated. So we're implementing that and working closely with the USBE finance team. A lot of that work isn't as visible to the LEAs, but we're working closely with USB Finance on those calculations, and then kind of presenting that information and those updates in our focus working groups to the different stakeholders. And I think I've kind of talked about some of the upcoming work that we're doing, in particular, like with there's the exceptions component of indirect costs. Like that'll be something that we'll work on here in the next month or so. And then as far as we are able to confirm budget and actual submissions, as the finance vendors are able to submit things to USBE, how we can show and search that information within USIMS is something that we'll begin implementing here pretty soon as well. Based off of that, with the finance API, we're on track with our definition of done for FY24. So I mean, right now we're in a green status, but there's a lot of kind of continuous work that on the finance side, based off of the Ed5 recommendations for like a financial adoption. This is a multi-year process. We'll be doing a pilot this year with select LEAs, and then doing parallel submissions next year. And then if everything works well with both the pilot and the parallel, then being able to, officially move all of the submissions into USIMS. That's the plan right now. But again, we need to make sure everything goes right. With the amount of funding associated with the LEAs to make sure that we get this correct. So that coordination with the vendors is kind of a big thing with us right now, and just kind of an ongoing, it's not an issue or risk, but it is something that just kind of want to make everyone aware of. And as far as the we've actually implemented some steps. We had some issues, not issues necessarily. We were able to connect some developers, but we had issues with a couple other developers. Recently, within the last few weeks, we've been able to within Azure configure the finance API and enable all of the third-party developers to connect to our Swagger page and be able to kind of really get underway with their work. So that's the update on the finance side. Were there any questions that anyone had?
Question for Mark, but what was it?
They just wanted.
Okay, Katrina will share that. Okay, anything else on Dawn? Move forward. Oh, look at that, meetings. Thank you.
That question was a perfect segue. Thank you. So I wanted to just quickly go over those focus working groups that we have. We have a focus working group for every domain, and we appreciate participation from our LEAs in those focus working groups. The focus working groups for the next couple of months will be talking about our finalization for our July 1st, 2024 deadline for the student backpack, for the finance API, the things that Dawn and Mark have just spoken about, as well as the things I spoke about with the educator domain with UPAC and BCI and University Recommends. And then after we get all of that wrapped up, we're going to start talking about next year's roadmap and what 2025 is going to look like as far as USIMS goes. We've already started having some of those conversations. We know we've got a lot of reporting that needs to start. We've got a lot of administrative pages, some user account stuff that needs to happen. But we really look forward to hearing from all of you about what is your top priority for the system, what needs to be covered, what needs to be added, what needs to go before other things, so that you ensure that you've got the information that you need within the system before we start jumping into other things. So our focus working groups are Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We have the student team on Monday, the educator team on Tuesdays, and the finance team on Wednesday. Please, if you have some spare time, join us for focus working group. We also send out recordings of those focus working groups and emails about what we're trying to accomplish in the agendas. We also do functional advisory boards, which are a quarterly review of all of the work that our teams, all three of them, have been doing and will be doing in the upcoming quarter. That just happened week before last. We'll do another one in July. That July functional advisory board is going to be a little bit longer than our usual one, because it will be demonstrating all of the functionality that we have achieved thus far to hit our legislative deadline of July 1st. We also have a on-site next week where we're flying in all of our development teams to come in and meet with some of the LEAs. If you would like to have your LEA on that list, to have one of the development teams come talk to you, come see what your problems are, see how we can help, see if what we're offering is actually providing the solutions that we hope it is, please let me know. We would love to come visit your LEA.
We've got a question, I think it's from the previous, but it's asking about timing for rollout.
Timing for rollout, it varies. So what we are trying to do is never just tell you, hey, by the way, tomorrow we're going to turn off UTREX and you're going to be going with USIMS. Our goal is to say, hey, we're rolling out our University Recommends system, our piece to University Recommends. And that's through beta testing right now. It's working with teaching and learning. And all of the University Recommends people have been told, hey, come test this out for us. Come let us know if it works. If it does, then we're probably going to move on to rolling it out into production on this date. That's going to be at least a month in advance, so you'll know, hey, this is coming. We hope to do that with every other feature that we're working on, so that those who are going to be interacting with it have time to look at it, have time to get a feel of it, and to see that it's working before we roll it out to production. As Dawn mentioned, they're going to do select LEAs are going to be testing the finance API this year, and then next year we'll do parallel submissions where they're doing it both in USIMS and within their current UPAS system, or however they're managing that. And then after that, we'll be working on getting people in full just to USIMS. So it'll be a long-term rollout. We don't want to just surprise everybody with anything, but we're also going to be using these meetings to communicate some of that. Any other questions? Sweet. And we are a few minutes behind. I apologize for that, but it was a great discussion about the One ASIS because we have questions too. So thank you all so much. And thank you for joining us today. That is us. Aaron, do you want this back?
Yes, I'll take it back. Okay, we'll be closing down this Zoom meeting and coming back here in about 7 minutes into the next Zoom meeting for those who are online. So thank you. Take a quick break and we'll see you in the next meeting.